Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for the introduction and for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you. Let me know if the mic, if I get it too far from me or if you can't hear me or anything. Too far? Okay, thank you. Before I get into what's looking good for 2016, I want to give you all a brief review of Marin Economic Forum for those of you who may be unfamiliar with MEF, or maybe it's been a while since you've heard about MEF. Our mission is to enable Marin's economic stakeholders to collaborate on improving the county's economic vitality, focusing on Marin's targeted industries while enhancing social equity and protecting the environment. So we really look beyond just supporting businesses, which of course we do, but we really look at making Marin a really wonderful, stable community to continue to live in. We connect businesses to partners and solutions. We educate. That's a big part of our mission, is to educate the populace about economic issues in the county and also in the region. We also do a number of studies that provide data on important issues for businesses, nonprofits, communities, governments, whoever looks to us to help them answer a question. We have a staff of 4, including myself. A lot of you may know our other people. Alana Capozzi, who is our Director of Administration and Communication. Dr. Robert Eiler, who's our Chief Economist. And when he's not doing that, he's also the Interim Dean of Extension and International Education at Sonoma State University. That's his primary duty now. We also have Evan Williams as our Marketing Administrator. As many of you may know, MEF has been around since about 2010. I was privileged to join in August of last year, and I'm very happy to be a part of this community. Mentioned, I most recently from the Sacramento region, where I worked at UC Davis, but before that I was in Virginia, North Carolina. But on a personal note, I've been coming out to Marin County for most of my life. I have family in Fairfax, I've been here for decades, and I've been very involved in the community, so I've always wanted to live out here, and I never thought I'd get the chance to actually work in Marin County. So I'm just saying I am very pleased and feel very fortunate and lucky to be here. One of the few things I wanted to mention about MEF are our activities, and one thing that we do to really get involved with our community is we have 4 working groups. We have a finance industry working group, a technology and entrepreneurship working group, construction development, commercial real estate group, and a destination management group. Now, each of these groups is run by one of our board members. We have a board of approximately 40 people, a little bit over that. And each one is chaired by one of those board members. And then we have people from outside MEF, outside our board, who are on those working groups to contribute their time, energy, thoughts, and activities to help us with these. And each of these working groups has or have a number of projects that they're working on every year. This month and next month, they'll be finalizing their projects for 2016. And I hope all of you will look at our website. We also have the newsletter to keep you informed about those. So if there are any topics that do come up that you all are interested in participating in, they'll be on our website and on our newsletter so you can follow up. We also do a number of projects and economic studies, as I mentioned, for the county, for businesses. And we also recently completed a multi-year project in developing a comprehensive economic development strategy, or SEDS report, for Marin County. Now, this SEDS report is actually on file with the federal government at the U.S. Economic Development Authority in D.C. And what this does is it shows them that we have a concrete analysis of the economics of this county as of last year and projected plans moving forward over the next 5 years. So if we were to go for any federal funding, or if any of our partners were to go for federal funding, we can use the SEDS report as a way to help provide that funding or to help secure that funding. A couple other projects we we assist with are the Marin Sonoma Cheese Trail, which I hope many of you are familiar with. If not, I hope you will be. We also partner with the Marin Business Forum and 100 Marin as well. These are wonderful partners of ours that we help them financially and help them organize for all their events. Moving forward, I'll get to 2016 in just a second, but one thing that we identified as areas of focus for MEF over the next couple of years are in our targeted industries. Now, we picked these targeted industries based on the fact that they tend to have fast growth, high number of job creation or job retention, and also have a multiplier effect, and that while having those jobs here in Marin create a multiplier effect for the amount of money spent in the community, the amount of jobs that are brought in from having those first jobs. And so the target industries we'll be looking at over the next few years are agriculture, specialty manufacturing, research and design, community wellness, and education. And under one of those, under research and specialty manufacturing, is the life sciences. We have a burgeoning life science community here in Marin, with BioMarin and others both here in San Rafael and in Novato, but also we are partnering with the North Bay Life Science Alliance, which is all of the North Bay counties working together to promote a comprehensive effort to promote life science and biotech in that region. Now, looking back at 2015, we had a really good year for the county. It was a very strong year economically. We were really in a position to be coming out of the Great Recession that was from 2008 to 2010. The county is really well positioned with projected growth of about 2.5% for the next 3 years. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in California at about 3.4%. Now, this does not count those who are not looking for jobs or who those may be underemployed, but it's just the unemployment rate is the lowest in the state. We also have one of the highest. Oh no, I'm sorry. We have actually in the state of California, the per capita income in Marin is about $20,000 more per person than any other county in all of California. Wow. Now, if you look at that in relation to the fact of our county size related to other counties that may have many more people, it's really impressive, and I think it's a testament to our hard work here. Median house pricing is in Marin is about $1.1 million, and one thing that certainly I found when I'm looking to move here is that the average rental price for a 2-bedroom in San Rafael is about $3,000. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of housing. But we did add around 5,000 payroll jobs between late 2014 and about September of 2015. So that's a very nice margin of jobs created. And most of those were in the professional services, education, health, tourism, and retail. Now, looking forward to 2016, we're going to be looking at a couple things. Of course, again, as we're emerging from the recession, we're in a good position to welcome new businesses, especially from certain large cities somewhat south of us, who it's getting more and more complicated and more expensive to work and live and have businesses there. And we're actually seeing an increase in the number of businesses from San Francisco and the peninsula who are looking at us as a possible place to relocate due to business costs. And we have a number of people who are looking into that, and we're going to be reaching out to those communities and businesses in those regions to see if anyone would like to come up here. We've really targeted this year, I mentioned this earlier, really targeted 2016 as a year to build on the momentum of our growing life science industry. One of the reasons that we're really pushing this year is because in June of 2016, San Francisco will be hosting the world's largest gathering of bio-life science personnel called Bio 2016. This annual conference can only be held in a few cities around the country, and every year roughly 20 to 30,000 people come in and working from bio-life science companies, universities, research groups, and others. And we will be there in association with the North Bay Life Science, MEF, and the North Bay Life Science with other California life science agencies to promote what we have here in the region in the North Bay, but also specifically in Marin. We're looking to have continued growth across 2016, even with the increase in interest rates and even with a slight downturn in, I've got a minute left. So even with a slight downturn in global economic outlook, we're looking to continue growth here in Marin and also in the Bay Area and Greater California. And thank you very much for your time. I look forward to your questions. And again, please check out our website and our newsletter, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Susan. It's really nice to be here speaking for the Marin Coalition, and I really want to thank Susan for inviting me to help you all start visioning what 2016 is going to look like environmentally. Because for me, New Year's is about resetting. You know, you erase the past year, start all over, let's get to the things that we didn't get to before. So I welcome you to put on your rainy day hat and venture out into the wilderness of the environment with me and talk about what's going to happen in 2016. In Marin, we have a great culture of yoga and meditation, so we can do this kind of envisioning and focusing a lot better than cultures that don't have that. And so I welcome you to bring those skills, that toolbox today. So today I'm wearing the director's hat for the master class for the Environmental Forum of Marin. And I want to take you on a little voyage back into history 40 years ago. Our organization is 43 years old. But so is Marin Coalition, and so is Marin Conservation League. And a lot of nonprofits actually in Marin exist that started somewhere around that time. And why is that? What happened 40 years ago? That's so interesting. Well, do you remember a guy named Nixon? Okay. Well, here's a little known fact about Nixon. Nixon, and I learned this in Rebels for a Cause, was such an environmental sleeper, as the president. He may have been a crook, but he brought some of the strongest environmental protection acts in the country. The Clean Air Act, which is arguably one of the most significant air pollution control bills in American history. He brought the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972, which was a first. He brought the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974, which he proposed, but Gerald Ford, another well-known president, saw through and signed. He brought the National Environmental Policy Act. He created the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and he created the Endangered Species Act of 1973. In 1973, which was created to protect species in danger of extinction as a result of human activity. And this has been called the Magna Carta of the environmental movement. So like I said, I learned all of that in this movie, and I was actually shocked. But this movie will tell you a lot about the Environmental Forum of Marin, and I encourage you to watch it. It'll also tell you about how a lot of areas in the Bay Area were taken care of by environmental activists who are still around today. So rebels for a cause, with a cause. So during that time in the 70s, the word ecology suddenly emerged. And that became the hippie word. And hippies are kind of having their heyday now. I don't know if you've noticed culturally, but hippies have come back around outfit-wise and music-wise and some other things-wise. The weed thing is really popular right now. But Marty Griffin, back in the 70s, was a young pediatrician or internist, and he was also very involved as a environmentalist. And he saw what was going to happen when Marin was finally spotted as the place to live. And he got in front of it all. And a lot of his history is written up here in this really well-written book called Saving the Marin-Sonoma Coast, which we have copies of at the Environmental Forum of Marin. And the history of the Environmental Forum of Marin's work is also in this book. And I bring that to you because I can't take the time right now in this 10 minutes to tell you about what we are all about. But essentially what we are is an education program that's dedicated to helping you understand what the Marin environment is about and to help you be an advocate and a steward for Marin County. So if you live here, you will be able to learn deeply about your landscape and your backyard and learn how to take care of it, which I think is one of the number one actions that anybody can take. Take care of your own backyard. So I want to ask now, how many people in this room have actually taken the master class? Yeah? We are everywhere. We have sitting right in front Vicki Rupp, who is the president of the board right now. And our diaspora has affected many, many, many different arenas in Marin County. We have started nonprofits. We sit on town councils. We are mayors. Our students have a deep understanding of what is important in Marin County. And we have 1,000 graduates. And we're out there and we are leading. So I really invite you to take the master class and be part of the movers and shaker community that we are. So let's fast forward right now through the 80s, through the 90s, through to 2000. And here we are in 2016 and we have climate change breathing down our necks. And in Marin, we're aware of it. We're paying attention and we're doing something about it. We are in the leadership, and Marin County leads California in so many thoughts and actions and initiatives. So I want to speak to you about some of those thoughts and actions and initiatives because a lot of them came about last November when we had the Lead on Climate talk, which was a fabulous collaborative effort of nonprofits and for-profits coming together and saying, you know what, we have sat down in the Environmental Forum of Marin's lectures for months and years and learned about the difficulties of climate change and what it's going to do to us. And we have gone to Marin Coalition and heard about all of the issues that plague Marin County that are also attributed to climate change. We have developed the sustainables, which are Sustainable Marin, Sustainable Nevada. We have Resilient Neighborhoods, an organization looking at how to modify our footprint. We've done a lot of back-end work to help us understand how we as a county can do our share to take care of our climate impact and our greenhouse gas emissions. We have a lot of work to do still, and so do we all. But we can't just sit around, right? So the collaborative that came together for Lead on Climate generated a really fabulous document that I distributed at your tables, Marin's Proclamation on Climate. And it's from this document that I would like to project 2016 and the actions that I think that we all have to extrapolate on doing. So if you want to look at that with me, essentially what we're looking at is making sure that we're supporting alternative energy, making sure that we put a price on carbon, making sure that energy savings happens with the buildings that we have, making sure that transportation initiatives are really happening so that we have electric vehicles, public transportation, bicycle, walking paths, all of those alternatives that allow us to reduce our fossil fuel load. We need to lower our carbon lifestyle. We need to drive less, consume less, eat less, fly less, have a plant-based diet, decrease water usage, decrease waste. We need to have a smaller footprint. There's a lot of vernacular here, and I'd love to have a conversation about that vernacular, and one of them is footprint. One of the newer solutions that's out there is actually carbon sequestration. That means taking carbon out of the air, because carbon is what is bringing the global temperature up so high. We can't seem to stop putting it out there, so how can we bring it out? How can we pull it down? We call that carbon sequestration, carbon capture. And finally, and really dramatically, we have to address sea level rise, because we are a coastal community, and sea level rise is happening today. King tides happened over Christmas and Thanksgiving, and we saw the effects of that during some of the bigger storms. So we're looking at all of that, though. So going forward, 2016 for me is about solutions. We have some amazing solutions out there. It's no longer a time to sit around and talk about what's going on. We talk about how we move forward. So there was a wonderful project put together called Project Drawdown, and they created 100 top solutions that could help us draw carbon out of the atmosphere to bring the greenhouse gas load down. That is my ringtone too. I lost my train of thought, but was, 100 projects. So this was put together by our local Paul Hawkins, and the list reads similarly to like the 1970s hippie list. You gotta, live light on the earth. And all of the various actions there really harken back to some of that original thinking, that ecological thinking. So I really want you to think positively and think towards solutions. There are solutions out there. We can talk more about solutions. One of the solutions is the lecture that is coming up that the forum is presenting on the 13th and the 23rd. So I welcome you to start thinking in that direction, refer to that document, and think about how you as an individual can reduce your personal footprint. And so thank you.
So you both might want to be up here now to share this microphone depending on which questions come to you. Do you want to just check and see if that's on? Just to see
We will hand it back and forth. All right.
Okay, so we're going to ask you to stand to ask your questions. The other microphone doesn't seem to be working. And we'll start over here with Bill. So try to keep your questions short and pointed, and if you have one person you want to direct them to go ahead and let them know who you're at.
I think that this question is appropriate for each of you. I think a contradiction. On the one hand, the gentleman speaking about economic development pointed out how very wealthy Marin County is, and that means that people having low-wage jobs can't live here. That's an obvious fact. On the other hand, the person speaking about the environment said we've got to decrease our footprint. So please help me to understand whether it's more than just words for someone to say we can have a situation where the people who work here can't live here and they have to get here by driving here, and that people and that our society as a whole, and Marin County society in particular, should decrease its carbon footprint. Thank you.
Well, way to get us started with a good question. Who wants to tackle that first?
I do. So I anticipate that one of the biggest questions that's going to come up here is about the issue and the confluence of housing and transportation. Marin is a really wealthy county. I lived in Costa Rica for a year, and I saw that Costa Rica did a similar thing that Marin County did. They put a lot of their land into preservation so that people would not live on that land, because they saw the value of their land as increasing biodiversity and being a kind of a highway between Central America and Mexico, so that animals could transport themselves. They are a huge mecca for biodiversity, and they recognized the value that they had to the planet. We did the same. We have a gorgeous, gorgeous coastline. We have beautiful mountains, and we got in there before the people did, and we preserved our land. Okay, well, Costa Rica and Marin have the same problem right now. We don't have enough land that isn't in preservation to live on. We don't want to ruin what's already there. Okay, so this is a problem that humans set up for themselves. And suddenly, because we have so much population, it's a real problem, because people still take precedence, right? And we still feel like we should have what we want, and we don't want to compromise. So I'm not a great compromiser, and I'm not a great negotiator, but when I saw Bridge of Spies, I was very impressed with his ability to negotiate, and I truly believe that what we need now is a skilled body of people to help us negotiate the way, and we need to slow down our impact on the earth, period, end of story. So if that means that we need to work on our transportation and housing, we need to negotiate that way among ourselves. And that's my answer to that question.
I'd like to echo a bit of that in terms of the negotiation, because this is a very complex issue with a lot of moving parts. it doesn't have a simple answer. It ties in affordable housing, it ties in transportation, and it does tie into the environment as well. And this is something that I think we all need to be a part of, and we all do have feelings and beliefs on it. And I know from speaking to a lot of people that there is a sense in this community that we're kind of at a logjam where people are not communicating properly about this. But I do think there are a number of people working on solutions, including the Smart Train. There are ideas out there for 37 and other ideas for housing in this county. And what we need to do is be able to talk to each other and negotiate. And sometimes we're going to have to look at this, and maybe somebody's going to have to give a little while the other side gives a little. And not everyone may be 100% happy, but it will work towards a solution. And all I can say is 2016 is going to be another one of those years where we all need to stick together and work together to find a solution. And it's going to have to be the community, it's going to have to be government, it's going to have to be nonprofits, and it's going to have to be businesses.
Is there a question from this table? Anybody here? How about, okay, let's go over here to Pat. We'll take your question. Would you stand, please, and you can just speak real loud, because I don't have a microphone.
I was wondering what is your relationship with Luncheon, a program which is evolving. And I wondered if you could explain a little bit about it.
Could you repeat the question to those?
She asked what my relationship, are you asking about the environmental forum or the economic forum? Oh,
Environmental.
yeah. Right, well, so we applaud, absolutely, we applaud One TAM. One TAM is a collaborative open space organizations, including the parks, UGNRA, and I think really One TAM is a brilliant solution to, first of all, because it's collaborative. I think there's a lot to be said about collaboration. But it's a collaboration in order to increase the knowledge and wisdom around what the parks and open space is in Marin County, and also to increase their ability to have a reach into the younger generation and the minority generation population in Marin. They recognize that they can't just stand around as organizations on their own and hope that people come to the park and take care of them. They really want to make sure that people understand why parks are important, and that's why they formed One TAM. So we are not in a specific collaboration with them, but we certainly tout their business and their work as much as we possibly can, invite speakers from One TAM to help us educate our masterclass students. We had actually a One TAM person come and speak about the reach to the youth, so that the youth in schools got out to the parks more. So that's my answer to that. Does that answer your question?
Let's go on to the next question, Larry.
Just a quick question. The question was posed, Northern California or any part of California without water. The answer is it's a desert. And we are a desert. Where do you guys stand on doing what Arizona did 40 years ago and eliminating lawns? Lawns have to be one of the largest uses of water. They are the biggest pollutants to the water table, all of the chemicals that are put on them, etc.
Listen, that's mine. So let's take that to Phoenix, okay? That question is really loaded. So my background is I'm a landscape professional, and I am a permaculturalist. And one of the first things we learned how to do was transforming lawns into a garden, simply, cheaply, easily. I am not a golfer also. So I really feel like wearing the hat of the Environmental Forum of Marin, I have to kind of give you a very balanced perspective here, which is that lawns have their place. They can work in certain situations that are naturally abundant with water. They're really not the biggest use of water in Marin or in California, actually. Agriculture is. So, you know, every little thing helps. So I think if you don't need your lawn and you can transmute your lawn into something else, hallelujah. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, do we have an economic question? Or maybe not, Vicki? No, you may ask an environmental question as board chair.
So, Andrea, please tell us more about the Environmental Forum lecture series.
Okay then. So she wants to hear more about the lecture series. She is asking because about 2 years ago we changed the master class structure so that we have less classes, and we poured a lot of the material that was in the remainder of those classes into a lecture series, because a lot of the topics that we address in the lecture series are current, cutting-edge, high-impact issues that are really critical for Marinites to all understand. So we had last year a whole series on drought. We had a bunch of speakers come and speak on ocean acidification, which is a huge problem. We had, before the lecture series actually, we had addressed wildfires, fracking. So these lectures are usually on Wednesdays, once a month, and Saturdays, once a month. We have a lecture series coming up, and you would have a bookmark in front of you. And those topics are going to be current topics. So we'll be talking about carbon sequestration on the 13th with John Wick. He is the guy who talks about carbon sequestration the most eloquently, and this is one of the most exciting solutions that exist out there right now. So I really encourage you to come to that talk. And it will be followed up by sort of hands-on work that people are doing on their farms to help sequester carbon. And again, we're talking about solutions. The lecture series this year is really focused on solutions, identifying what the issues are, but what are the solutions? What can we do?
Okay, so I'm looking for an economic question. Okay, Greg, and then we'll go to Judy, and then over to you, Greg.
One of the things I appreciate about business organizations like yours, Chambers of Commerce, North Bay Leader Council, Downtown Improvement Districts, is they recognize the jobs housing imbalance which Marin has suffered from for decades, and our need for more affordable housing to accommodate the workers that we have here that now have to commute in. What I fail to understand about business organizations like yours is that they always take for granted that more jobs is good, more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. Why is that? Doesn't that just dig the hole deeper? Doesn't that just make things worse? I mean, it's all well and good to say, well, if we could match our jobs to the unemployment rate, but as you pointed out, our unemployment rate has always been, and now more than ever, is very low. And most of the new jobs that are brought in fact, usually are for relatively lowly paid workers, which means they're going to have to commute in as well and make the problem of the need for affordable housing worse. So what is it about all business organizations that have this knee-jerk, more jobs is good, more jobs is good? Why?
A very good question. I just want to start out by saying jobs are good, but for me and for M.B.A, it's the quality of job as well. As you mentioned, it's very true. A lot of the jobs that we've received are probably lower income, such as in hospitality, retail, and some services, but we've also seen an increase in high-paying jobs in terms of with BioMarin and some other life science companies, and those companies that not only are those life sciences, but also support those, such as professional services like accountants and lawyers and others like that. So we have seen an increase in those higher paying jobs as well. It's not as always easy to break those out of the larger number that I mentioned, but they are there. And so what I think we need to do, what our organization and other organizations need to do, is promote those as well. And showing, yes, we do still have an issue with low income jobs, but those aren't the only jobs we're creating. And how can we promote that, and how can we create more jobs like that? We will always have low income jobs. We will always have higher paying jobs. But knowing that balance and knowing what we can do to promote higher income jobs, that's part of our mission.
Okay, Judy, to your question.
This is a tagline, I think, to Greg's question. I'm a biologist, so I come from something, it's called the biological carrying capacity of the land. It means there's limits. Now, every economist I ever hear talk about, it's all growth is good, and it's the same as you're saying, growth is good, jobs are good, people is good, it's all good, and it all goes up. And we know that that up curve, much like the carbon up curve, is a not sustainable, not realistic, and unnatural. So I'm wondering about a sustainable economy, or a sustainable economic model that your group could be supporting, that would recognize the limits we have on space, i.e. land, on our roads, on our water, and on the carrying capacity of this whole planet in general. And I would love to see you address that in an economic model. And the tagline to that is that most economies that are human are based on the fact that if you build something on the land, it has value. Prior to that, its value is pretty low. It's like ag land is low. Build something on it, it's now got a property tax base, it's now got money associated with it, and that's better. So that, again, we're getting into the green economics. I'd like to see that being addressed if you can do that. Thank you.
That is a lot to address in just a few minutes, but what I have to say is,
That's why I waited till last.
I am fully supportive of a sustainable economic model. I've lived in a number of regions with different models, different environments, some similar to Marin, some very different. What I'm looking at now, personally, is economic models from across the country that may assist us with what we're doing. Now, I will say MEF is restricted in what we can do in terms of our manpower, because it is so few of us. So we rely heavily on our board and our partners that we work with. But we certainly are very supportive of looking for a model of sustainable, maybe not even using the term sustainable growth, but just sustainable economic impact. And that's actually why we use the term economic vitality in our mission statement, as opposed to economic growth, because for us, and for me personally, vitality is not just job creation, job expansion, but it's also environmental. It's also having a strong, viable community where people want to not only work, but live and play and have their families grow. So this is something we're looking at, and I'm sorry I can't give you an exact model right now, but it is something we are trying to approach over the next year, at least for me, yes.
Good, thank you. David, your question is next.
I'm going to make an editorial comment first. I think a number of the environmental comments need to be oriented toward the Chinese before they come home to the U.S. I think from the other side, I think we need to look at it from the human side. And the human side is we're putting ridiculous stress on family systems by pushing commutes further and further out for affordable housing. You know, and you look at teachers, people in public safety, healthcare. I had my cardiologist comment on Monday that even doctors can't afford to live in this county. You know, what is going to be required to keep us from being a 1% sort of population where our children, our grandchildren, and everybody else can't live here? And so I think some of the sensitivity needs to be put on the back burner while we look at the human side.
Either of you care to comment on that, or should we go to the next question?
I just think it was a great comment, and I think it encapsulates a lot of what we've been discussing.
I'm from Marin County and I want it all. And I think, quite frankly, if we use common sense, we can have it all. I think if we retain the footprint we can have affordable housing. There are huge homes out there that can be retrofitted, to house more people, et cetera, I think we need to have a community where we don't have to press in our workforce and take care of our own backyard. There are solutions we need to do environmentally, and when people talk about sensitivity to the environment, the most endangered species now is us. With the sea level rise and the change that we have in our climate, we are the endangered species. We have to do it all now. We have to do water, we have to do the whole thing. And
economic, we have to increase people's living wages, but not have them go out and buy more shit from Kmart or, wherever. However we can do that, make people pay for their pollution. I know that the transportation at one point was looking, we'll have a paid lane. Great, so people can have their SUVs or their Hummers go in the fast lane. I mean, our whole thinking has to be more healthy, more community, more balanced. So, anyway, it's not a question.
The Marin Community Development Agency recently presented some data about housing and income, and they looked at the median price of a house, to own a house, townhouse or condo, and then to rent a house and apartment. And then they also put beside that the income it would take for you to actually be able to afford one of those housing options. None of them are affordable in this county. The incomes are way under what's actually needed to afford any one of those housing options. So how does that get remedied? Why don't you take us away on that?
Well, this issue that's being tackled in a lot of communities around us in terms of wages, whether you want to call them living wage or, living wage. And a number of communities around us are looking at this. San Francisco, San Mateo, Napa County, Sonoma County, they're all looking at that. A lot of this is going to come up in next year's election. Some of this will be around next November 2016 election. So for those of you who are really interested in this, I encourage you to read studies. I think there are a couple out. If you want to email me afterwards, I can probably find you some new ones as well. I heard one recently from a group in San Francisco talking about they recently increased their wage and what the impact it had. Actually, very minimal impact on mostly retail and restaurants. That was the main concern when increasing the living wage was a lot of people thought restaurants would go out of business or they would cut down on wages or cut down on hours. Surprisingly little impact, but that's, again, just the city of San Francisco, so you have to take that into account. But there are others that are out there. And again, this is not a simple issue where we just say, hey, we'll raise it all to X amount of money per hour. It also depends on the community in which you live, and like you said, how much it costs to live here. Each community is a little bit different, and each community can have different wages, and if you have one community with one wage and then a county over with a different wage, how is that going to impact those two counties? So it's a big issue, and again, one that will come up in 2016, so I really recommend, and for all the things we've talked about, I know all of you really care, and I can tell you all can, that's wonderful, but to really make a difference, we need to be sure that we know that you all let your legislators and your elected officials know how you feel. That's the only way changes are really going to be made on many of these issues. And I know that was not a very specific answer, but at this moment, that's all I can give.
I have a house in Pennsylvania, and I'm aware that we have the largest lot in the area.
Largest what?
Lot.
Lots.
The lots are about a quarter of an acre or more or less, or 1/4 of an acre, which could house 3 units. But yet the county doesn't pressure, or doesn't ask, or doesn't approve. There's all kinds of things that go in to have second units or third units. You could have 3 units in a 10,000 square feet lot easily. And those are the most effective, according to a workshop that I did with the county. The most effective use of land is to have 3 units in 10,000 square feet lot. Why is this not promoted or encouraged more by the county so that we can have more low-income people live here? I mean, it's really, to me, it's a very wonderful solution. Also, Lucas Valley has a lot of large lots, and so does Carolina. That could be used, and to use the land more effectively, rather than bring those huge multiple units buildings that are proposed to Terlinda, that I also object to that, but there
So
are other
Steve, maybe you could
solutions.
address that in the context of what is the Marin Economic Forum doing in looking at the housing issue and the aspect of size of units or use of acreage?
Sure. As you may be aware, we have, again, a number of people representing a wide variety of interests in MEF. And we actually have an issues committee where every couple months this group gets together and talks about these issues. And we have a lot of debates, we have guest speakers, and we kind of use that as our sounding board for what MEF can promote or what we want to get behind. At this moment, we're still very much in the studying phase of how do we want MEF's, what do we want MEF broadcasting in terms of views on housing. So really it's in the stage of there are a lot of discussions, there's a lot of options. One thing I will say, I think it was in Sunday's Marin IJ about utilizing larger homes to convert to multiple dwellings. I forget the organization, but there is an organization here in the county.
For junior second unit.
Lily Pad.
Thank you, yes, junior second units, yeah, so, yeah. And so,
They're
again,
widely accepted in Mill Valley.
I'm sorry?
They're widely accepted in Mill Valley, the second units.
For acceptance, you know, I can't speak to that on a community basis. That's going to be in terms of the municipalities and county laws and regulations. This is something, I know I've said this before, but it's such a big issue. We need to be very careful in what we say and how we go about it and what we need to move forward as a county. So again, it's just a very complex issue. I think there are a lot of possible answers, but there are a lot of people with different ideas. And we don't want to necessarily pick a solution or pick something that we want to promote that is not beneficial for the county as a whole.
Okay, I'd say we've got time for one, maybe two more questions. So is there anyone else who wants to ask a question that has not already asked something? So, okay, over here.
Thank you, Susan. I don't have a question. I would just like to say, I can't remember the last time I've heard such positive things about Richard Nixon.
One more, a chance to do like a 2-minute wrap-up. So, Caroline.
Well, I understand from the medical profession that 1 out of 5 children being born today are autistic, on the autism spectrum. Do you have any information on that?
Okay. Well, great last question.
One out of five.
Okay, Eleanor.
No.
Thank you both. My concern is like globally and trading and corporations and the whole path and the whole idea of money going here and there and all over. So both of you, and I took the Environmental Forum class, I think 32 years ago. So I'm very much interested in saving our redwood trees and not spending transportation funds on a large bus stop in Novato, and our huge sports center, our plastic grass all over on these sport fields because of toxins. So it's like we're talking toxins, global economics, trade, the whole thing. Even the other day, that meat will not have a label on it from where it's coming, which has to do with trade. So any way you can address any of those issues.
Can I just recommend that you use that broad question as a way of giving your own like 2-minute wrap-up statement?
Sure. One thing we all have to remember is Marin is a wonderful county, but we're not alone. And we're part of not only a local community in the North Bay, but also the San Francisco Bay, state of California, country of America, and the entire world. And we are just one part of a much larger system. And in many ways, you can look at this system, even if it's an economic system and a biological model, because of the way things flow back and forth. And there are always going to be concerns about trade and money, and there always have been, and there always will be. But what we need to do is figure out, coming back down to the local, what best fits us for Marin. keeping in mind that there are going to be times when we don't have control over what happens in terms of economics, whether it's a North Bay issue, a San Francisco Bay issue, or a global issue that will impact us, that we won't have a way to do anything about, but we just have to be able to manage it or utilize it for Marin's best interest. So really, I'd just like to finish by saying I think there are, what I love about Marin is that you all care. I've been in a lot of places where nobody cares. So I can tell you, just being in a community where everyone cares, no matter what your opinion, is really wonderful. And I want you all to keep that, and I want you all to make your voices known and heard. And if there's anything that the Marin Economic Forum can do, if we can do a report for you, or if you would like to see some of the studies that we've done in the past, or if you'd like to come to a board of directors meeting and just observe, happy to do that. Just let me know, and thank you all for your time.
I really couldn't have said it any better than Steve. I echo so much of what he just said. I feel that your passion in this room is immense. And if you want to channel some of that passion and educate some of that passion, come and take a master class. We can help you understand a little bit more clearly some of the issues that are underpinning maybe some of the housing and transportation, global transportation issues, trade issues. But, your involvement in this community is making this county what it is now. And we really are together. We're very organized. There are a lot of organizations that you can get involved with and that you can have an impact with. So this organization is one of them. My organization is one of them. And I just really appreciate everybody standing up and voicing your opinions. It's really clear to me that there, among the 1%ers in this county, there's a pretty strong middle class here that is upset and really would like to see their voices heard and represented. So I really want you to keep representing yourselves and bringing the choir to more meetings. So in closing, I do want to see you come to one of our lectures or two of our lectures or the entire lecture series to get a sense of how we handle our material. We are a pretty sophisticated, high education organization. So I hope to see you there, and I hope that you reduce your footprint this year, okay? Thank you.